The sun was a cruel, burning eye in the sky of the Deathworld, its fierce light bouncing off sharp, jagged rocks and deep crimson sand. The air was thick with dust and the distant echoes of battle cries. This was a world where only the strongest lived, and every day was a fight for survival. The planet's name was unspoken, whispered only by those who dared to visit, and most left never to return. In the middle of a massive stone arena, carved from the ancient mountains themselves, crowds gathered. They came to watch the greatest fighters in the galaxy duel in brutal contests of strength and skill. The arena was a battlefield where legends were born, and death was a constant shadow. Among the roaring crowd stood a young man, small and plain-looking, but with eyes that burned brighter than the sun. His name was Jax. He was a level 1 fighter, the very lowest rank a warrior could have. To everyone else, Jax was nothing more than a weak novice, someone who didn't belong in this dangerous place. He wore simple, worn-out gear, his body not yet hardened by years of combat or enhanced by the strange biotech many fighters used. But inside Jax was a fire, a burning desire to prove he was more than just a beginner. He stood at the edge of the crowd, his heart pounding. The roar of the audience around him made his ears ring. He watched as 2 warriors, clearly experts, fought in the center of the arena. Their moves were fast, brutal, and precise. One was a towering level 70 with cybernetic arms that glowed blue. The other was a level 65, moving so quickly he seemed like a blur. Jax's eyes followed every strike and dodge, his mind racing. How can anyone be this strong? He wondered. He felt small, powerless. The power gap between him and these fighters was like the gap between a child and a mountain, yet he didn't turn away. Jax's journey to this death world had not been easy. He left his home planet with nothing but a basic weapon and a single goal: to become the strongest. He knew it would take years, decades even, but he was ready to fight every step of the way. Suddenly, a hush fell over the crowd. A new challenger stepped into the arena, and the entire audience's attention snapped toward him. The challenger was a fearsome man known as Korak, the level 50 champion. Korak was a living legend, feared and respected across multiple systems for his savage strength and ruthless tactics. Korak's armor was scarred from countless battles. His eyes burned with cold confidence. The crowd cheered wildly as he raised his weapon, a massive energy blade that crackled with deadly power. Then, the impossible happened. Korak's gaze locked onto Jax. "You there," Korak shouted, pointing directly at Jax. "Step into the arena. Fight me." Jax's heart nearly stopped. The crowd gasped. A level 1 fighter challenging a level 50 champion? It was madness. Jax looked around. Some people laughed, others jeered. "He'll be dead before he takes one step," someone whispered. But Jax didn't hesitate. He stepped forward, into the blinding light of the arena. The sand beneath his feet felt hot and unforgiving. The cheers turned to shocked silence. Jax could feel the weight of every eye on him. He was about to face a fighter 10 times stronger and more experienced. The odds were impossible, but inside him, a strange calm settled. The duel was announced. The arena gates closed with a heavy clang, sealing them inside. Jax looked at Korak, standing tall and ready. The champion sneered. "You don't belong. Here, newbie." Jax tightened his grip on his weapon, a simple old plasma blade. It was nothing compared to Korak's energy sword, but it was all he had. The crowd waited in silence. The referee raised his hand, then dropped it. The duel began. Korak moved like a storm. His first strike was a fierce slash that sent a shockwave through the air. Jax barely dodged, feeling the heat of the blade pass inches from his arm. Jax stumbled backward, heart pounding. He could hear the crowd's murmurs, some shaking their heads expecting a quick end. But Jax didn't give up. He remembered his training. Stay calm, watch the enemy's moves, use the environment. The Deathworld arena was filled with strange rocks and debris. If he could use them to his advantage, maybe he could survive longer. Korak attacked again, faster this time. Jax blocked with his plasma blade, sparks flying where the weapons clashed. The force was overwhelming. Suddenly, Jax saw an opening. Korak's stance shifted for a powerful strike, but the champion's focus was his weakness. Jax lunged, slashing, low. To everyone's shock, the blade cut through Korak's armor, leaving a deep scratch. The crowd erupted. Murmurs turned to gasps. Korak stumbled back, eyes wide. No one had ever hit him like that before. Jax's heart soared, but the duel was far from over. Korak recovered quickly, rage flashing in his eyes. He charged like a wild beast, swinging his energy blade in deadly arcs. Jax dodged and weaved, barely keeping up. The power gap was crushing. Every blow from Korak was like a hammer. Then something strange happened. As Korak prepared for a final crushing strike, the arena lights flickered. The ground trembled. Both fighters paused. A low rumble echoed from deep beneath the arena. Suddenly, the arena floor cracked open, revealing a glowing chasm below. Jax and Korak both stepped back, eyes wide with shock. The crowd was silent, holding their breath. The duel had just taken a turn no one expected. Jax looked at Korak, then at the glowing chasm. This was no ordinary fight anymore. Was the Deathworld itself joining the battle? The tension was unbearable. The duel was no longer just about power or skill. It was about survival against a force no one understood. Jax swallowed hard. He knew this moment could be the start of something much bigger. The crowd waited, frozen in suspense. What would happen next? Would Jax survive the challenge? Could a level 1 really face a level 50 and the unknown power beneath the arena? The story was just beginning. The glowing chasm cracked open beneath the arena, sending cold wind swirling up like a ghost's breath. The crowd's shock turned into whispers and nervous murmurs. The earth itself seemed angry, alive. The rules of the duel had just changed. Jax's heart raced. He glanced at Korak, whose face was twisted in a mix of anger and confusion. But the champion didn't hesitate. With a fierce roar, Korak charged forward again. Jax barely had time to react. The first strike hit him hard. Korak's energy blade slammed into Jax's side, sending him sprawling to the ground. Pain exploded in his ribs like fire. The crowd gasped. Some even began to stand, expecting the duel to end immediately. But Jax didn't stay down. Clenching his teeth, he pushed himself up. Blood trickled from the wound, but his spirit burned brighter than the pain. Korak sneered, stepping closer, confident that this fight was over. "You're weak. You're nothing but a level 1 joke." Jax stared back. He was weak, yes, but not defeated. He remembered the small lessons from his home planet, the way his father taught him to watch, to think, to survive. Even without power, a smart fighter could last longer than the strongest brute. As Korak prepared another strike, Jax dove to the side, using a jagged rock to block the blow. Sparks flew as the energy blade slammed into the stone. Jax scrambled to his feet, breathing hard. He didn't have fancy armor or cybernetic arms, but he had something else: speed and sharp senses. Korak was fast, but Jax was quicker. The crowd watched as Jax darted between shadows and rocks, avoiding blows that could kill a weaker man. But every dodge left him more tired. He knew he couldn't keep this up forever. Suddenly, Jax's foot caught on a loose stone. He stumbled, and Korak's blade sliced the air just above his head, missing by inches. The crowd shouted warnings. Jax rolled away and crouched behind a tall boulder, gasping for breath. He needed a plan. As he rested, his eyes caught something unusual: faint markings on the boulder. Strange symbols glowing faintly. Curious, Jax reached out and touched the symbols. A soft hum filled the air. Suddenly, the boulder shifted, revealing a hidden compartment inside. Jax's heart jumped. Inside, he found a small device, an ancient weapon, glowing with unknown energy. Could this be the secret to leveling the playing field? Korak was already closing in. Without hesitation, Jax grabbed the device and activated it. A blast of energy shot out, throwing Korak backward. The crowd erupted in cheers and shouts. For the first time, Jax stood tall, not just surviving, fighting. Back, Korak growled in frustration, rising slowly. His eyes burned with renewed fury. "You cheat," he spat. Jack shook his head. I survive. The duel was no longer just about skill or strength. It was about heart, quick thinking, and the will to fight against impossible odds. Korak charged again, but Jax was ready. The fight had just begun. The energy from the ancient device crackled faintly in Jax's hand as Korak staggered back, surprised by the sudden blast. The crowd's cheers echoed like thunder, but Jax barely heard them. His mind raced faster than his heartbeat. How was he still standing? How could a simple level 1 fighter fight a level 50 champion and even hurt him? But Korak's anger was dark and deep. He wiped blood from his lip and glared at Jax with eyes cold as ice. This isn't over, Korak growled. Suddenly, before Korak could attack again, the arena's giant gates crashed open. Armed guards stormed in, shouting orders. Stop the duel, one shouted. The arena is unstable, the Deathworld is shifting. The crowd panicked. The glowing chasm beneath the arena grew larger, cracks spreading like spiderwebs. Jax and Korak stepped back, eyeing the widening fissure with growing fear. The announcer's voice boomed over the loudspeakers. The duel is paused. All fighters exit immediately. Jax didn't hesitate. He sprinted toward the gate, heart pounding. Outside, chaos reigned. Fighters and spectators scrambled for safety as the ground shook violently. Once clear of the Kai arena, Jax found himself surrounded by other fighters, some weak, some powerful, who all looked shaken and confused. One of them, an older man with scars and a calm voice, stepped forward. You're the one who challenged Korak, he said, eyes sharp. Jax nodded. I'm called the Ghost, the man said. I was once the strongest fighter here, a level 100 before I disappeared. Jax's eyes widened. Level 100? He had only heard legends about such fighters. The Ghost looked at the glowing device in Jax's hand. That artifact you found, it's ancient tech, powerful but dangerous. Jax asked, What's happening to the Deathworld? Why is the arena breaking? The Ghost sighed. This world is alive. It tests all who come here. The power gap you saw, the difference between level 1 and level 50, is bigger than you think. It's not just strength or skill. It's something deeper. Something tied to the world itself. Jax listened closely as the Ghost explained. Fighters here grow stronger not just by fighting but by adapting to the Deathworld's harsh trials. The planet's energy flows into those who survive, multiplying their power in strange ways. So, the Deathworld chooses who gets stronger? Jax asked, stunned. Yes, the Ghost nodded. And those who don't adapt, they die. Jax looked down at his plasma blade and the glowing device. Then how do I survive? How do I close this gap? The Ghost's eyes gleamed. By learning the Deathworld's secrets. You must face the trial of the forgotten, a test no one has passed for centuries. If you survive, you may unlock power beyond level 50, even beyond level 100. Jax felt a mix of fear and excitement. Where is this trial? He asked. The Ghost pointed toward the distant jungle beyond the city. Deep in the wilds. It's dangerous. Few return, but it's your only chance. Jax looked toward the dark forest, the setting sun casting long shadows. He knew the path. Ahead would be harder than any fight, but he also knew he had no choice. The duel might be paused, but his real battle was just beginning. The jungle stretched before Jax like a dark sea of green and shadow. Thick vines twisted around massive trees. Strange sounds echoed from unseen creatures, and the air was heavy with damp earth and unknown dangers. This was the place called the Trial of the Forgotten. Jax tightened his grip on his plasma blade and the glowing device. The Ghost's warning echoed in his mind. Few who enter the trial return. It tests your strength, your mind, and your will to survive. With a deep breath, Jax stepped into the jungle. The first steps were quiet, but the deeper he went, the louder the strange noises became. Growls, screeches, and something that sounded like whispering voices carried on the wind. Jax stayed alert, moving carefully over roots and rocks. Suddenly, the ground beneath him shifted and a hidden trap snapped shut with a loud clang. Jax jumped back, heart pounding. The trap was sharp, made to catch anything careless. "This is going to be harder than I thought," he muttered. After hours of walking, Jax came across a glowing pool of water surrounded by strange markings carved into the rocks. The symbols looked similar to those on the device he had found. Curious, Jax touched the water. Suddenly a vision flashed before his eyes, a quick glimpse of the Deathworld's past. He saw giant beasts roaming the land, warriors fighting to survive, and a mysterious power that seemed to flow through everything. The vision ended, leaving Jax shaken but more determined. Suddenly, a roar broke the silence. From behind a thick bush, a massive creature burst out, its eyes glowing red, teeth sharp as knives. It was a Deathworld predator, a beast designed to kill anything weaker than itself. Jax raised his blade, ready to fight. The beast charged, claws slashing. Jax dodged just in time and struck with his plasma blade. The energy sliced through the creature's hide, but it barely slowed. The battle was fierce and fast. Jax rolled, jumped, and struck again. Using the glowing device, he sent bursts of energy to distract the beast. Finally, with a powerful strike to the throat, the creature collapsed. Breathing hard, Jax looked at the beast and felt something strange, a mix of fear and respect. This was only the first challenge. Deeper in the jungle, Jax found ruins covered in vines, ancient buildings that had long been forgotten. The walls were cracked, but glowing symbols still pulsed faintly. He felt the device grow warm in his hand. Walking through the ruins, Jax discovered strange alien machines, technology far beyond anything he had seen before. It was clear the Deathworld had secrets buried deep, and this trial was connected to those secrets. Suddenly, the ground shook again. The ruins began to collapse. Jax sprinted, dodging falling stones and debris. Just as the entrance sealed shut behind him, he barely escaped. Outside, the sky was darkening. The trial was pushing him to his limits, physically and mentally, but Jax was not ready to give up. He knew the trial of the Forgotten was his only chance to close the power gap and survive the Deathworld. With renewed resolve, Jax prepared for whatever came next. Night had fallen over the Deathworld jungle. The stars were hidden behind thick clouds and strange noises echoed all around. Jax sat by a small fire, his body tired and sore from the day's trials. His mind, however, was wide awake. The glowing device in his hand pulsed softly like it was alive. Jax studied it carefully. He had no idea how it worked, but he knew it was important. Maybe the key to leveling up, to gaining strength beyond what any level 1 had before. He thought about the ghost's words. The trial was not just about fighting. It was about understanding the Deathworld itself. Suddenly, a soft light rose from the device. The glow grew brighter and warmer until it surrounded Jax like a shield. The pain from his wounds eased, and his tired muscles felt stronger. Jax's eyes widened in surprise. "Is this power?" he whispered. The energy wrapped around him like a gentle storm. Images flashed in his mind, memories not his own, of warriors long gone, fighting with incredible skill and strength. Jax closed his eyes and reached out to the energy. It felt like the Deathworld itself was sharing its strength. Suddenly, the fire around him flared and then calmed. The jungle noises quieted, as if the world was listening. Jax opened his eyes. His body felt different, stronger, faster, sharper. He stood slowly, testing his new strength. With a quick movement, he sliced through a nearby branch with his plasma blade. The cut was clean and effortless. This is just the beginning, he thought. But power came with questions. Why had the device chosen him? What else was hidden in the trial? And what dangers waited ahead? Jax looked up at the dark sky, determination burning in his eyes. He was no longer just a level 1 fighter. He was awakening something greater. The journey to level 100 had truly begun. Want me to continue with part 6? You said part 6, ChatGPT said. Here's part 6. The Champion's Return. Raising stakes, drama, and tension, still in simple language and third-person style. Deathworlder Duel. The shocking power gap from level 1 to level 100. Part 6. The champions. Return the next morning, the jungle was quiet, but Jax felt a storm inside him. His body still hummed with the power from the ancient device, but he knew his biggest challenge was waiting. Korak. Back in the city, word spread fast. The level 1 fighter had survived the trial's first test and gained mysterious power. Fighters whispered in awe and disbelief, but none were more angry than Korak. The level 50 champion paced in his quarters, furious. His pride was wounded, and he could not accept being outmatched by a weak newbie. "I will finish this," Korak growled. "No one steals my title." Meanwhile, Jax made his way back to the arena. His steps were steady, his mind clear. The trial had changed him, but the duel was not over. As he entered the arena, the crowd fell silent, waiting for the next chapter of the battle. Korak appeared, stronger and more dangerous than before. His cybernetic arms glowed fiercely and his eyes burned with rage. Without a word, Korak charged. The fight was faster and fiercer than before. Korak's strikes were precise, aimed to break Jax quickly. But Jax moved with new speed and strength. The glowing device pulsed on his arm, helping him block and counterattack. Blows clashed, sparks flew, and the crowd watched, breathless. Suddenly, Korak unleashed a powerful energy wave, pushing Jax to the edge of the arena. Jax struggled, but he held his ground. With a sudden burst of energy, Jax launched himself forward, landing a clean strike on Korak's side. The crowd erupted in cheers. Korak staggered, his face showing shock for the first time. This duel was no longer a simple fight between a newbie and a champion. It was a battle for respect, survival, and power. Jax smiled slightly. He was ready for whatever came next. The arena was silent, the air thick with tension. Jax and Korak stood facing each other, both battered but unbroken. The crowd held its breath, waiting for the final move. Korak's eyes burned with fury. "You've surprised me, level 1, but this ends now." He charged, faster and stronger than before. Energy crackled from his cybernetic arms like lightning ready to strike. Jax held the glowing device tightly. The power inside him surged, not just from the artifact, but from every trial he had faced, every danger he had overcome. He was no longer just a weak fighter. He was something new, a survivor, a learner, a warrior. The two clashed in a burst of light and sound. Korak's energy wave hit Jax's shield of glowing power, sending shockwaves through the arena. Jax pushed forward, each step stronger than the last. With a final strike, he broke through Korak's defenses. Korak stumbled, then fell. The crowd erupted in cheers and disbelief. Jax stood tall, breathing hard but victorious. The power gap was real, but it was not unbreakable. He had shown that even a level 1 fighter, with courage and heart, could rise beyond the limits set by strength alone. As the sun rose over the Deathworld, Jax looked to the horizon. The journey was far from over. Stronger challenges awaited, level 100 fighters, greater mysteries, and new trials. But Jax was ready. Because on this Deathworld, power was not just about levels, it was about will.